Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Monday evening. Hope you guys have had a great start to your work week. I tell you what, it's definitely felt like a Monday, at least for me personally. I mentioned this morning at the tail end of the video that I made this morning about I was dealing with a little bit of some low-end anxiety, just not really anything big going on at all, really not anything that's warranted for me to worry about. But just a couple small things that I had to take care of today. And once I took care of them, I felt much better. But sometimes some little things add up enough to create a little bit of worry in your life. So I appreciate the people who did pray over that. And I do feel a lot better this evening. So I appreciate you guys looking out for me as we always do for one another on this channel. And that's always appreciated. But in this video, what we're going to do, and I also want to mention, I apologize for the audio issues this morning. I think the kids got a hold of my microphone over the weekend, sometime between, I guess, last night's video and overnight. Maybe the cat got a hold of my microphone or something, but I don't know what happened with that. But I do apologize for people who could not hear me. I wasn't loud enough, basically. So hopefully you guys can hear me pretty clear in this video. I know regardless, my videos don't have the best audio. I have a pretty cheap microphone, and I'm looking to upgrade some stuff here in the coming months before hurricane season. But I appreciate you guys letting me know. Hopefully I sound a little bit better in this video. But in this video, we're going to break down the severe weather threat coming up here in a couple days. I don't anticipate this being a major outbreak or anything, but I do think portions of the country is definitely going to see some severe weather. All hazards are on the table. And the same limiting factors are here with this setup as they were in last setup. You're talking about capping and maybe just some early morning convection that prevents the afternoon convection and evening convection from getting going. So that's what we're going to talk about. Then we're going to talk about what's going to happen here in the next 24 hours, maybe some storms, severe storms possible in Virginia and the Carolinas. So if you guys got anything I can pray about, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it. It gives others an opportunity to do so too. So let's get going. I will mention, here in my neck of the woods in the southeast, it has been a very warm day. Today has actually been a touch, you can almost say it was uncomfortably warm today, if you will, due to the fact that we've had a good bit of, not a good bit, but a touch of humidity here in the Carolinas today, as dew points were generally in the upper 50s to low 60s, even mid 60s for certain areas. Once you start to get dew points in the 60s, it starts to get a little bit of humidity to the air, especially when you mix them with temperatures in the 80s and 90s. Once you start to get those dew points in the 70s, that's when it feels like a tropical air mass outside and becomes very uncomfortable, but very warm even at this hour. These are people's personal weather stations. You got 80 degrees all the way up to close to areas of the western portions of New York State. Like I mentioned this morning that it could possibly happen. It certainly is. 80-degree reading here just north of Pittsburgh. So it's very warm out there at this hour as you're preparing for dinner along the eastern U.S. Tomorrow, there is a marginal risk. It has expanded a little bit compared to this morning. And yesterday, actually, there wasn't even a marginal risk up, just a general risk for storms, but a level 1 out of 5 risk for severe storms, which is a marginal risk. We have to see if this might upgrade to a slight risk by the time we get to tomorrow morning and I make tomorrow morning's video. But we'll see how this goes. The biggest risk, I think, is probably some damaging winds and then a small threat for some hail also. But tornado risk is below 2%. I don't anticipate any tornado threat tomorrow for the Carolinas and Virginia. So hopefully I don't eat my words with that. But not really seeing anything that points to any kind of tornado threat. But we'll take a look at the latest HRRR model and kind of show what it shows and how it unfolds tomorrow throughout the afternoon hours. Tomorrow just might be a good old-fashioned, if you're a big-time summer afternoon storm fan like I am, like a lot of people here in the South are, tomorrow might be your day. It's a day where you'll just see some afternoon storms, but the storms won't be very, very severe at all. Just some afternoon rumbles of thunder and lightning, kind of like a summertime pattern here. But here they come about probably 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They start to develop here in areas of Georgia, central South Carolina, areas of central and eastern North Carolina, and they could pack a punch for certain areas. It's almost impossible to predict exactly where a storm could potentially pop up, but watch out. Fayetteville, Columbia, South Carolina, even Augusta, anywhere from 1 to 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then they have a chance to intensify or at least stay the same as they enter the Atlantic Ocean, start to enter the coastal regions of the Carolinas, even Virginia, as we get into the evening hours when around dinner time. So just watch out tomorrow. Definitely a rumble of thunder, some lightning out there, some small hail is definitely possible, damaging winds. So just don't be surprised if you see a severe thunderstorm warning or two out there with some big time heating going on tomorrow. Also, tomorrow will be our last really big warm day here in the southeast with temperatures climbing well into the 80s. You'll feel it tomorrow. Tomorrow will be even more humid across areas of the southeast for sure, as it's kind of the last push of moisture with the trough incoming along the, just with the fact that the trough hasn't pushed all the way through, so you're still getting the big time surface heating in front of the front. So in front of the front, there you go. So talking about Friday, a severe weather threat is here. A 15% risk of severe thunderstorms occurring in this region right here. This spans for areas of very far southern areas of Nebraska. A small section goes right through the heart of Kansas and right through the heart of Oklahoma. This includes areas like Wichita, Kansas, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Wichita Falls, Texas, and it might expand into Dallas, Fort Worth. We'll have to watch this, but for right now, the risk is just north of y'all, so we'll see how this expands. And then you look at day 6, which gets into your Saturday. Says predictability too low, but I would not be surprised if by the time we wake up tomorrow, we might have a risk for this day too. But we'll kind of have to watch to see how this unfolds. This is all in response to a upper trough or a cutoff low, whatever you want to call it. It almost definitely looks like a bowling ball of a cutoff low, especially as you're getting to overnight Friday and a Saturday. And here it is. It starts to kind of climb into the Rockies or dive into the Rockies here, and then it pivots over Nebraska and Kansas. With it, it brings a surge of moist air at the surface and a moist, warm sector, very broad and northerly extended moist sector that rises almost all the way into Iowa. So dew points climb all the way into the 60s. So just like we always do with severe weather, you have the moist air at the surface, dew points in the 60s, rising all the way up here. So you have the moist air to deal with for severe weather. That's one factor that you need for severe weather. And you'll see this here as we look at tropical tidbits as we're starting out overnight Wednesday into Thursday morning. Here it goes. You had the moisture rising all the way into Nebraska, even portions of South Dakota, where dew points are climbing into the 60s all the way in to Kansas. As we're getting into Thursday afternoon, this continues, and as this low pressure, this kind of short wave low pressure develops associated with this upper trough and rounds the base of it, you start to get into Friday afternoon, and you have a big time moisture return all the way up into the triple point where that low pressure will be, and then you have a stout dry line setup. So there's always a risk with dry lines with a capping setup that doesn't allow for convection to really explode through a stable area in the atmosphere that kind of prevents updrafts from really strengthening and really climbing into the upper levels of the atmosphere. Therefore, it prevents big time thunderstorm development. And I really think this will be a case here, and this is what it will look like potentially around Friday afternoon. Dew points rising well into the 60s, maybe even a 70-degree dew point somewhere mixed into here in Oklahoma, near Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, and then areas of Arkansas. This is that moist sector, that dry line we talk about, and with it, you get convective levels that get pretty high in this region. So Cape levels rise in response to the high dew points here, and you'll see this here moving forward here. And you got the dew points that start to rise, and then you would get into Friday afternoon. Look at this. This is a classic dry line type setup where you got Cape that is there. Surface Cape, just surface Cape. That's all we're looking at here, reaching well over 3,000 joules per kilogram along this dry line. So you got two big time boundaries mashing against each other. It causes lift. It causes severe thunderstorm potential. Now, you can have all the dynamics in place in this area, but if you have that area of stable air aloft, maybe a mile, 2-3 miles up in the atmosphere, and just that warm kind of stable air that really just prevents these storms from really, exploding into the upper levels of the atmosphere, then, it doesn't matter what dynamics you have. These storms really can't get going towards the surface, so they can't really, strengthen. So there will be steep lapse rates in place, but it has to kind of make it through that cap for these storms to really fire. Another big question mark here is the early morning convection, meaning how much rain and storms are we going to have in the morning hours Friday? And does the atmosphere destabilize quick enough and recover? So you got kind of two things working against you, and that was kind of the limiting factor with last week and over the weekend with those storms also. There was a big time cap that really prevented a big outbreak of storms in this area. So we have to watch out here. But I tell you what, some big time Cape values reached, that storm juice that we talk about, the energy that's there, but it can't quite explode through the atmosphere and really develop them storms. In the upper levels of the atmosphere. Another thing we look at is what we call the low-level jet. That's that low-level wind sitting about, a mile to a mile and a half above our heads, where we're standing, which is the surface. And, you're going to have a low-level jet rounding just outside, just east of that dry line that's going to be setting up here. So you're going to have shear in place. You're going to have a spin to the atmosphere. So what I'm basically saying is you're going to have a tornado threat with any storms that can explode right here along this dry line in Kansas and Oklahoma and into near where the triple point is, where I think the kinematics will be maxed out. And I really think you'll probably have the best chance for a tornado right in this region of Nebraska and Kansas, right up here along the triple point, where all dynamics kind of meet at a triple point right where the low pressure is. But, you take a look at the European model and we kind of can get an idea of what it's trying to say as far as precipitation, what can happen. We get into Friday morning, getting into Friday afternoon, and here's the low pressure right here kind of digging into Kansas, and it begins to eject itself across the middle of the country. We'll stop this here. It doesn't really show a whole lot. It shows storms to the north of the low pressure, but don't really focus on that too much. But what we're looking at is you have a big time dynamic atmosphere right here for severe storms, but will anything fire up? So that's the big question mark. So we'll continue to check this out, figure out what's going to happen. But as always, until we get into the CAM models, which is the convective models here, and these short range models like the HRRR model and the NAM model, we're not going to know exactly what's going to happen. We never know exactly what's going to happen until it happens, but the short range models can give us a much better idea of what could potentially happen. So hope you guys have a great rest of your evening. I'll talk to you guys in the morning. Hopefully this video came through well. Hopefully I don't pause this video and then I find out the audio did not work. But anyways, have a great night. Talk to you all in the morning, and stay safe out there.